Welcome back to the Friday show presented by Monmouth Park, where Twilight Racing Friday, Saturday, and Sunday racing at 12:15. They've got the nation's first pick five of the day, the win early pick five. Last Sunday, I think it paid $3,300, Joe. So it's a good bet, low takeout, and so that's Monmouth for the weekend. We've got Pat Cummings here. A lot of you may have read Pat's work for the Thoroughbred Idea Foundation. You can check it out at racingthinktank.com. You can follow Pat at Pat Cummings TIF on Twitter. Pat, welcome to the Friday show.
Thanks, Ray and Joe. Good to be with you.
So there's a lot going on in the wagering area, non-horse racing actually, and you've written about this a little bit, I think, in the Thoroughbred Idea Foundation's work. Fixed odds wagering is coming to New Jersey, and sports wagering, which was approved by the Supreme Court when they overturned a federal law in 2018, is growing fast and coming to more and more states. I think Maryland may be the next one to come on board. Canada will have sports wagering pretty soon, it looks like. This is a juggernaut that's not going to slow down. But let's first talk a little bit about fixed odds wagering, which basically means when you make a bet, those are the odds you get. It's not you're not going to see odds drop when the horses break from the gate. What you bet is what you get. What's the advantage of that, and what has to happen for fixed odds wagering to be successful in not just New Jersey, but presumably it's going to be passed in other states as well?
Yeah. So first and foremost, it's price certainty, so that when you make the bet, you know exactly what you're going to get if you win. Which in horse racing, for all of us who have had a bet at any point in time in the past, you don't know typically until maybe 10, 20 seconds into the race exactly what you would get back. And that's pretty much only on a win bet, an exacta bet, or a daily double bet. We don't have a real vision into the pool's place and show and tries and supers, and certainly the pick threes, fours, and fives. Essentially, you need to win 2 or 3 or 4 races in a multi-race sequence today before you know what you could possibly win. Fixed odds turns that on its head, and you're betting not against all of the other people in the pool. You're betting against a bookmaker who is setting the market for a particular race. So if it's a race at Monmouth coming up, say the Haskell, and they put up early prices for the Haskell and say Hot Rod Charlie is 5-2. You can bet Hot Rod Charlie at 5-2 to win the Haskell. And if he wins the Haskell, you'll get paid 5-2. So I think there is a significant portion of the population who likes racing currently who will be attracted to this, given the kind of proliferation of late odds changes that we have seen grow and grow and grow over the years.
How do you see something like this affecting the regular tote that racetracks are putting on every single day?
Yeah, there's no doubt that I think we should expect that players who may have been dabbling in the win pools are going to look to fixed odds to make sure they get the price they want. And that is a natural byproduct of this additional stream of betting options that are going to become available. So could there be some cannibalization? It's a terrible word, but could you see people fleeing one pool and then moving into the fixed odds space? Because up to, I think it's over 30 operators in New Jersey could be offering this if they strike agreements with the Australian company that has been brought in to facilitate this for Monmouth Park, a company called the BetMakers. Could they all suddenly go to those accounts and start betting there? They could. But I think it will be a slow process, and I think customers will learn to like it. I also think you're going to bring more people into racing, right? Because if you're in New Jersey right now, you have to go to 4NJ Bets to place a bet through online. It's the only ADW that's allowed in the state. It's a TVG product. And similarly, you have to go to a physical location, an OTB or a racetrack to place a bet. So now you're going to be potentially on up to almost 3 dozen providers that could be offering bets on racing. And yeah, there could be an impact. But I think with any of these things, Joe, we're not going to know it until we see what happens and how the market evolves. This is not going to be some cure-all for racing. It is potentially a path to increase business.
Pat, we know that the computer-assisted wagering teams that are getting rebates are becoming an increasingly larger part of the pools. If you see the everyday players that aren't getting rebates leaving the the pari-mutuel pools for the bookmakers for the fixed odds, how's that going to affect the whales? I mean, they may not be in the New Jersey pools right now in a big way, but they are in other states. And if other states adopt fixed odds wagering on horse racing, that could change their methods, right?
Yeah. So the first problem, Ray, is that we don't have a clear picture of exactly who's betting what, where publicly, right? So that information is very difficult to come by. We don't have kind of full optics. There is no central office of handle reporting in the industry. The horsemen's groups don't seem to have a clear picture of it either. So the exact answers are difficult to come by. How big a percentage are these professional groups or the CRWs? How big are they in the pools right now? Again, it's also tough to say, but we feel their presence increasing. I think general players see that happen from time to time. Now, could it yield that they pull back some of their overall wagering? It could. I don't think we're going to know entirely what's going to happen until it gets rolled out and we see. And so in that case, New Jersey is a bit of a test for the nation. Now, not all markets are the same by any stretch of the imagination. I know a lot of Americans are more tied to British and European racing necessarily than they are Australian racing, but there's a big difference between the way fixed odds exists in British racing and Australian racing. And I think the Australian model is one that America is hoping is what we'll see, which is that once fixed odds was rolled out, it has been a very positive influence for Australian racing, Australian horse players, but certainly prize money. And that's a real positive. Some statistics I have on that in particular is that Australian prize money has grown about 39% adjusted for inflation in the 10 years from 2010 to 2019. As a total number in America, that same figure is a decline of 14% adjusted for inflation. So it's I think the Australian model is what we'll be looking to see replicated here. And I think it probably helps that an Australian firm is the one that Monmouth Park has partnered with to help bring this into New Jersey. And I think the rest of the country will be watching quite closely.
Absolutely. There was a study released recently that showed sort of purse distribution throughout a bunch of different major racing countries. And another country that uses fixed odds wagering, England, just really the entire segment of Europe in general are running for practically peanuts in terms of purse and the money that they're getting in from wagering. So, who you decide to listen to on this is going to be very important, is it not?
Yeah, and that's an important comparison. The tote, the pari-mutuel operation in the United Kingdom has been pretty far behind. I think it's something to the effect of 96% of all betting on British racing is at fixed odds or on the exchange. Now, in that, leaving that 4% left over for the tote, but it is actually growing. And one thing that's interesting here, fellas, is that this is competition, right? We've had a pari-mutuel monopoly that has existed for basically the better part of 8 or 9 decades on American horse racing. And fixed odds is going to create a level of competition we haven't necessarily seen. If you look at it in reverse in the United Kingdom, the tote operator there has to find ways to compete with the fixed odds operators. And one of the things they've been doing is guaranteeing that whatever the official starting price is for the fixed odds operators, for whatever those winning starting prices are, the tote has guaranteed to match them. Mm-hmm. And so during the recently completed Royal Ascot meeting, which saw a commingled world pool through the UK tote, they found themselves actually more with better starting prices in 21 of the 35 races across Royal Ascot. And in the other ones that they didn't, they matched what the starting price was on the fixed pool for their UK-based customers. And why they're doing that, obviously, is they want people to play in the tote. and they're viewing this as almost like a no-lose proposition. If you win, you're not going to get a smaller price. We haven't seen that sort of evolution, innovation within the pari-mutuel space. And I think now that there is this fixed odds competition, there's an opportunity that competition will breed innovation, modernization, where it really is very much needed. And it's worth noting that the bet makers who are facilitating this for New Jersey, they also have recently concluded the purchase of Sportech's racing, tote, and digital assets. So they're also a pari-mutuel player too.
So keeping on the subject of Royal Ascot, the NBC broadcasts always show that long line of the row of different outfits that are taking bets with the boards and the different odds and prices. Looking at the on-track experience at a place like Monmouth Park, is that something that you think we'll be able to see at Monmouth and eventually at other tracks in the future as this sort of gets rolled out elsewhere?
I'd love to see it on a day with food trucks, Joe. So you have food trucks on one side and you have betting bookmakers on the other. A lot of those bookmakers typically are more individual. They're not the big corporate bookmakers necessarily, but they add a tremendous amount of color and character to the overall experience of a race day in England for anyone who's experienced it previously. I don't think we're going to see that necessarily because most of the operators in New Jersey are doing so almost exclusively online, with the exception of being able to place bets in the sports books at Monmouth, at the Meadowlands. It has basically been an online-driven business, and the numbers are hard to argue against. That since the repeal of the law, or since the PASPA was overturned, back in 2018, New Jersey's handled close to $16 billion alone on sports bets. Yeah. And that number is probably only likely to increase exponentially in the coming years.
Yet to be worked out is how the revenue is going to be divided. If, for example, if you're a New Jersey resident betting on fixed odds and New Jersey is able to work out a deal with, say, California for their races to be broadcast in New Jersey that you can bet on fixed odds. We don't know yet. We assume the takeout's going to be lower, 12 or 13%. But how is the revenue from that going to be carved up between the tracks and horsemen in California, the tracks and horsemen in New Jersey, bet makers, and so on? So that's a key thing. We know that exchange wagering happened in New Jersey. A law was passed in California, but California horsemen and tracks would never come to the table to agree to terms. So that experiment fizzled. I'm not so sure fixed odds is going to be a game changer.
It might not be, Ray, but I certainly think we as a sport need to dip our toes into the pool here and see what happens. Because the business as we've known it pari-mutually over the last specifically 2 decades just it has not worked. If we maintain the current trajectory we're on, things will only get worse, right? Adjusted for inflation over the last 2 decades, total handle on American racing, only American racing, is down about 50%. Yeah. Nominally, it's down about 25%, but you really have to factor in inflation there.
So you threw in some numbers, what New Jersey has handled since sports betting the ban on it was overturned. I think overall, something like $58 billion has been wagered since June of 2018 until the present time, which roughly double of what horse racing has handled, and that's from a small number of states. Yeah. I looked at some stats for May of 2021, and New Jersey handled $814 million in bets on sports. Pennsylvania, $450 million. Nevada, $450 million. Of course, they've been doing it for a long time. Tennessee handled $172 million in online sports betting in the month of May. Tennessee. Yeah. So this is going to be huge. Florida's going to have sports betting before long because a law was passed there. It's going to be mobile, so you can be anywhere in the state unless a legal challenge is held up. It's going to be everywhere, and it's going to just dwarf what horse racing is doing, and they're marketing the heck out of it. DraftKings, not FanDuel, spent $500 million in marketing last year. By comparison, Churchill Downs spent something like $16 million on marketing for Twin Spires. So it's a huge thing.
I think it's worth noting that in almost all of the press conferences that Churchill Downs, the investor calls that they have relative to their earnings reporting and whatnot, they talk so frequently about the outrageous cost to acquire customers in the sports betting space. Notably, Kentucky does not have sports betting, but Ohio is expected to have something in the relatively near future. And if you're someone who happens to be in Kentucky, it's just pick which bridge you want to cross or which interstate you want to get on, because it's pretty much everywhere surrounding the Commonwealth. Have your pick. So look, I think there's an inevitability that comes with fixed odds betting on sports of any type. Question is, how does racing get involved in this in some capacity? And recognize it's not going to be the end all, be all, a cure all for racing, but it is a way to develop our products and present customers with a modern expectation that they get in other forms of wagering.
Now, Pat, I want to go back to something you said a little while ago about how much wagering has dropped over the course of several years. It seems like at the end of every major race, practically any meet anymore, we get some glowing announcement that we've done record handle. This race has never brought in more handicapping dollars. Everyone will joke, LOL, racing is dead. And what you're saying here seems to run counter to that. How do you kind of address what we're seeing and what you're saying is going on here?
So anytime anyone in the sport reports a total handle figure, I'd say view it with skepticism. That a total handle figure does not accurately reflect the state of the business, a meet, a particular track at all. You have to know what the composition of the customers are that have made up that particular total handle figure. So if you start looking at the figures that come out of the state of Oregon from last year, talking about the ADW business, several of the major ADWs are responsible for nearly $6-7 billion in total handle. And you basically couldn't get an on-track bet down for the majority of the country last year. So you say, where did that other $4 billion or so bet come from? A good amount of this is coming from high-volume betting shops, really professional syndicates. And when you look and you say, oh, new high record turnover, record handle, you have to start asking the question, how many customers do we really have? How has the customer base changed over time? Those answers aren't forthcoming, and it should be concerning to anybody who makes their living or helps defer the cost of investing in this business in some way, shape, or form from wagering. And that's almost everybody. So those relationships and how our business has changed and evolved are very important. But I basically say, don't accept any top line handle figure as an explanation of anything. We need to know how the customers that comprise that are actually growing and or diminishing. And some of the research that the Thoroughbred Idea Foundation has conducted suggests that ordinary customers, anyone who's betting less than $1 million a year, their overall performance adjusted for inflation, participation rate in racing has probably dropped by about 60 to 65% from where it was about 15 to 16 years ago. It's pretty substantial. So we have to understand our customers. It's been one of racing's greatest problems. Now the difference is that racing isn't the only legal online wagering option, right? So the market has evolved pretty dramatically, and so there's a lot more options out there for our customers, for racing's customers to engage with.
So we know sports betting is it's in a lot of states already. It's coming to more states. There's no stopping it. It's racing really can't do anything about it, but racing can benefit from it, I think, because if they got on the same platform, we're potentially exposing horse racing to a huge new audience that I'm not a sports gambler, so I can't speak for them. But I'm assuming you have a better chance of converting someone who bets on sports to horse racing than you would a slots player in a casino.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you just look at the mobile device market on this, Ray. The percentage of New Jersey wagering that is taking place on mobile devices versus actually in person, say, go to the Meadowlands, go to Monmouth. There's an exponential difference here. Right. Take those devices that are already in their hands. where they're betting on golf, they're betting on basketball, baseball. You put another logo, you put the horse up there. Just getting in the hands of players like that. It might not be tremendously earth-shattering money in the early years. It wasn't in Australia either. But let it grow, a little bit of marketing. There's an opportunity here, and I don't think racing can afford to pass it up. Doesn't mean it's going to be life-changing, but I don't think we can just afford to say, keep doing what we're doing, because that really hasn't been working either.
Well, to me, the good news is that the two biggest companies in the sports betting market are DraftKings and FanDuel. And FanDuel, as a lot of people know, is FanDuel TVG. And so they've already got that, that built-in audience for racing. They have experience with racing in Europe with sports betting. So to me, that's the partnerships with FanDuel TVG, I think, can really be beneficial for racing going forward.
And anyone with a picture of American Pharoah will recall that DraftKings logo was placed prominently on the saddle towel when he won the Belmont Stakes back in 2015. So it was a fortuitous sponsorship on their part.
Well, Pat, thanks so much for joining us and helping us understand a little bit about what's going on with fixed odds and the coming onslaught. It's here, actually, of sports betting.
Thanks, guys. Appreciate it.
Okay, and we'll be right back with some comments about this week's Woodbine Star of the Week.
They run down towards the final quarter. And out in front, Golden Amiati's Princess. Boardroom's coming up the inside. Summer Sunday. Amalfi Coast waiting behind them and gets a chance now to come through in the centre. And does. And at the back is Our Secret Agent. Anyone's race. Boardroom out wide, hit the front with Amalfi Coast up the inside. And from last is Our Secret Agent. Boardroom in front. Boardroom narrowly. Amalfi Coast the inside. And Our Secret Agent right down the outside. Boardroom is clear and is just holding on. Boardroom the winner by a neck to Our Secret Agent. Amalfi Coast third and Golden Ami was fourth. Behind them came Artie's Princess and Summer Sunday was last.
So as you can see, our Woodbine Star of the Week is Boardroom, winner of the Grade 3 Whimsical Stakes on June 19th. This was her seasonal debut and her first career graded stakes win, so heck of a way to start off the season.
Yeah, the LNJ Foxwoods camp have got another good one there, it looks like, and $475,000 purchase, daughter of commissioner, graded stakes win for that kind of a filly is really important. So hats off to them. Smart ride by Luis Contreras. She broke really well in the race, but there were three other horses that gunned for the lead. He took back, let them duel through really fast fractions. He had to swing out 5 wide, but she won comfortably.
So this is our second Star of the Week win for trainer Josie Carroll.
Yeah.
And there's a big reason for this. I spoke to Jamie Roth of L&J Foxwoods because I was curious why this horse was based at Woodbine. L&J has horses all over North America. Why was this one, who is a Kentucky bred, not an Ontario bred, going to Woodbine, run all 6 career starts there? Jamie Roth said she wanted to support Josie Carroll. She's a big fan of her training operation, really believes in what she stands for, and also the horse loves synthetic. This horse breezed effortlessly. It's a hard word to say. Yeah. Yes. High effort, big word. Breezed effortlessly over the synthetic at OBS during the 2019 spring sale. Won a quarter in 20-1. So that's really cruising. So they thought it made sense to go up to the Tapeta at Woodbine, and it's paid off for him. This is a good horse.
Yeah, and LNJ, I mean, they haven't been at it that long, but you better get used to those blue and gold silks. They're running around the races. So that's going to do it for this week's Friday show. Thanks to Pat Cummings from the Thoroughbred Idea Foundation for joining us. Joe Neville's our Bloodstock editor, as usual, is with us here to help me out on things. And thanks to Monmouth Park and to Woodbine for their support of the Friday show. What's the thing we do, Joe? You go to YouTube and you
like, share, subscribe. If you're watching it on there, just get the word out. You like the show. If you're watching the show, you like us. Like, get the word out. Help us help you.
The kids like to do the likes and all that, shares and all that stuff, right? Okay. Well, we'll see you next week with another edition of the Friday show. Thanks so much.